Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me directly through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is an internationally syndicated show solely due to the love and support that you all continue to show. We're available across all major podcast distributors. And like I mentioned, people, if you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in because we are delighted to showcase this next guest on our network. And on the line with us today, we have the impressive Tamara Michelle Dobbs. Now, a lot of you may remember Tamara when she was on our line previously, and people, it was a no-brainer. We had such a fantastic conversation that we knew we had to invite her back on. Not only selfishly for myself, because I knew how impactful the previous conversation went, but also the amount of feedback that we were receiving from all of you. It was something special what Tamara had done. We're discussing her book, Prayer When You Don't Have the Words, I Walked with Jesus. First and foremost, it's Amazon, it's barnesandnoble.com, it's a lot of other places, but if you want to gather everything that Tamara has in store, check out her personal site. That's tamaradobbslife.com. There you're going to gather more information on her, more information on this amazing book, as well as hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. It really is a one-stop shop, okay? So once again, that's tamaradobbslife.com. Now people, the reason why I say it was such an impactful interview that we had, when we start to do research on her book, when you purchase copies and you read the words that are on those pages, you understand this is a book that you need really for any time of day and time, but especially right now. Man, I'm not the only person that feels it. I understand there's a lot of division that we have currently in society, and there is a lot of pressure that we are all feeling, whether it's maintaining your home, whether it's gas prices, grocery prices, my goodness, the list goes on and on. Her book, Prayer When You Don't Have the Words, is going to assist you through some of your toughest times. And this is why I deem this book to be something that needs to be added to your shelf. Because we understand, man, listen, life is filled with obstacles. So even if things are going great for you right now, give it some time. Not that I'm wishing it, but unfortunately, it's just adversity is the name of the game. And books like this that are so impactful, that have so much that they can offer, are truly going to resonate with all of you out there. And listen, at the end of the day, Tamara is the expert, man. It's her book, she's written it. She's gonna be able to articulate it all much better than I ever could. Sit back, strap in, have your notebooks ready, as you're gonna definitely receive some gems here today. But by the time we've concluded, you're gonna run and purchase your copies. Tamara, first and foremost, welcome back to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I am fabulous and getting better. How about yourself?
Well, listen, Tamara, it is a true pleasure to have you back here on the network with us. After our first discussion, we were receiving so much positive feedback about you, about this incredible book. And like I mentioned in my opening, man, it was a no-brainer. We had to invite you back on. Now, we're thoroughly looking forward to this discussion. First and foremost, Tamara, in writing this book, what are you hoping to achieve?
I am hoping to help people find peace of mind. I mean, in praying, and it doesn't matter what religion you are, we all pray. Even atheists, I've actually heard them say, "Oh, God," once or twice. That is a prayer. So in prayer, we can find peace. And it may not happen exactly at that moment, but it's to help humanity get through the stressful times. We need peace. And so my goal is to help others.
No, listen, Tamara, you said a mouthful there, but by saying we need peace, because there are so many people here in the States and also around the world that are experiencing anything but peace right now. I mean, it truly is in short supply. The wars that are destroying communities all over the world. Even you yourself battling the storms that ripped through the East Coast. Peace is in short supply at the moment. And this is why a book like this is going to help fortify that base and bring some peace back to all of us. I love that you've written this book with that in mind. And I can tell you firsthand that people, when they're reading your book, what they're receiving is exactly that. I mean, you are doing some fantastic work. The best thing that I can say to you is keep it up, because we're truly receiving that gift. Moving on now, we know a little bit more about it, but I'm curious, what inspired you to write the book?
I had a woman on my massage table. I do massage on a daily basis for people, and I'm a facilitator of healing. And she came into my room and was absolutely distraught. And I told her I couldn't touch her until I swept her energy. And then I asked if I could do a prayer for her. And when I finished the prayer, she said it was the most beautiful prayer she'd ever heard. Her energy completely changed, and she knew I was planning on writing another book. I've been writing another book for years. And she said, your first book's going to be on prayer. And I thought about that. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call asking me to be at a convention. And they asked me if I was done with my book. And I said, no, I'm actually going to start writing it. The last 2 weeks of June, it'll be done by July and in hands of somebody by August. And so my inspiration was somebody in need.
Well, we know what inspired you to write the book. We know what you were hoping to achieve. Well, I want to transition now to your writing process. Tamara, your book is called Prayer When You Don't Have the Words, I Walked with Jesus. What would you say was the hardest part of writing this book?
The hardest part was actually getting things together and getting my own belief system together that I would have a place and a time to write the book. The first prayer wasn't one. I have written prayers all my life. And I went to the grocery store and I ran into a woman who had a headache, and I could see her headache. And I asked her if she could sit down and I could get rid of it for her. And the next thing you know, it's in Sisters, chapter Sisters and Devotion. And I asked her if I could write a prayer for her, which I did. And it was the very first prayer I wrote. And once that started, the first day I only wrote 1,000 words. The next day I wrote 10,000 words. The next day I wrote another 10,000 words. And within 10 days, I had the first part of the prayer when you don't have the words part written and ready for editing and a lot of proofreading.
Well, listen, talk about passion. My gosh. Listen, as is so often is the case, sometimes when that passion hits you and that momentum builds and gets stronger, it's like a runaway train and there is no stopping. I love it. Listen, I think it's only fair. Okay, we just approached the question of what was the hardest part of writing the book? Well, the opposite side of that coin, Tamara, is now the easiest part. Talk to us a little bit more about what the easiest part of the process was for you.
Believe it or not, it was the part of I Walked with Jesus. Again, I went in a writer's block. I got asked by one of the companies that I've moved through. They asked me to add 20 pages, and I couldn't figure out what to write. And I literally got down on my knees and I prayed for 4 things. I prayed that I would get my sense of humor back, and Halloween coming, that's what I'll share with you. The second one was I wanted to be inspired. Third was I needed content. And fourth, I needed time. At that time in my life, I was doing between 7 and 12 hours of massages a day. So time was not something I had. And because I was so tired from working all that, I really had kind of lost my sense of humor. And somebody told me a stupid joke. It's, why didn't the skeleton go to the Halloween party? He ain't got nobody to go with. And I just burst out laughing. And I kept giggling about it, kept telling it. And I said to Stephen, my mate, I said, Steve, you've got a meeting tomorrow. I don't know why, but I'm supposed to go to it for you. You double booked yourself, haven't you? And he goes, how do you know? I said, how do I know anything? I know the stuff. I just know. I know I'm supposed to go. He says, you don't like going to them. I said, are you double booked? And he said, yes. I said, I'm going to your meeting. Turned out the subject was inspiration. The second thing that came up was another joke that led to my content, The Walk with Jesus. 3 days later, or 2 days later, actually, he got called in to work his first day at his second job. And I had 5 cancellations for massage. And in 5 hours, actually, no, it was 4.5 hours, I wrote over 5,000 words. It only had 2 edits and 3 proofreads. It was very easy.
People, I'm telling you, this is one you need to add to your shelves, okay? Take her word for it. Take my word for it. Take a look at the reviews and allow them to help influence your decision as well. Because I'm telling you, this book is amazingly beneficial. Again, it's by Tamara Michelle Dobbs. It's called Prayer When You Don't Have the Words. I Walked with Jesus. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places. But make sure to check out her personal website, TamaraDobbsLife.com. That's going to be the one-stop shop for everything that she has in store. And I'm telling you, it's a place that you're going to need to hit up. Moving forward here, Tamara, I want to use a few minutes to pay it forward. Through people of distinction, being an artist, I often look for ways to utilize our platform to offer beneficial information to those out there listening in. I mean, this is something that I take great pride in and I love to do. And Tamara, the prayers found in your book offer wonderful advice for those in need. Someone who, through your experiences, you've acquired a tremendous amount of wisdom. Well, we'd be doing our listening audience a disservice if we didn't inquire about it. So what are some words of wisdom that you can offer to those writers out there listening in right now?
I would do your research. I would make sure that I might do the check with the Writers Guild. I would look at everything. Google, Yelp. What are the ratings of the publishing? Because most of the people out there are, they're either self-publishing or they're using hybrids. You cannot get into a publishing company unless you have an agent. Mm-hmm. And I am working with someone right now to have it go mainstream outside of self-publishing. But I've taken away from the hybrids and I now have it self-published. So keep writing. Possibly just do self-publishing. If you go with a hybrid, create a budget, know it's going to cost you some money, mm-hmm. and then just do it. Dive in. But don't dive in without doing the research.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, that's great advice, Tamara, not only for writers, but really, I mean, that can be taken and shifted for everyone listening in right now, right? Because it's that old adage of anything worth doing is worth doing well. And I think there is a lot of benefit in those words. And sometimes, or oftentimes, depending on who you are, that falls by the wayside and we don't follow it. So I love the fact that you reinforced it. Thank you very much. We offered advice for writers. Let's continue along these lines of paying it forward here for a second, Tamara. When we began, I talked about how beneficial your book is and how helpful and informative it can be to those in need. Well, it isn't a surprise to anyone, as I mentioned before, and as I'm sure people already understand listening in right now, there's a lot of pressure that so many are feeling at the moment. Let's utilize the next few minutes here, Tamara, to pay it forward to the everyday people out there listening in right now. What are some words of wisdom that you can offer to them in their times of need?
Pray. If you don't know how to pray, I make it as simple as possible in the book. You can use prayers that I have, which are kind of lengthy. They're little stories. Or you can use the short form, or you can just say, God, I need help. Praying for peace of mind. I usually do one that's like, Dear Lord, I give thanks that I am your servant. I ask that you help me bless others, that you send me people that need me, that I ask for myself, peace of mind, love, joy, prosperity, and good health. Mostly peace of mind, because if I have peace of mind, I'm really not worried about the other things. And I live in Florida. I have friends who've had houses that are 4 times they've torn out their drywall, some that have lost their homes. I have friends in North Carolina, Georgia, all those states. I have friends and family. I have family and friends both in Palestine and in Jerusalem and in Lebanon. So, I mean, you just got to stay in center and just say, okay, I love God. I love me. I love life, and I am going to do my best to help others. That is what I would suggest, is that people get over themselves and start helping others. When you do that, it's magic about getting your own peace of mind.
Tamara, I love that advice that you gave. And, sticking here and just focusing on prayer for a moment, you encouraged our listening audience to pray. And you even highlighted that it didn't necessarily matter your religion or who you're praying to. And I think that is such a profound statement. So often we get caught up in the things that separate us rather than focusing on similarities. And prayer is so powerful because the act itself, the belief that you have in it, is really what helps relieve the pressure. Our mental state, our minds are incredibly powerful. And I'm a firm believer, and I'm not going to dive down this rabbit hole too much, but I'm a firm believer that our perception can influence our reality so much. And I think oftentimes we miss that, right? Whether you're praying to God, Buddha, or even the universe, it can have the same powerful effects because your mind is what is helping dictate where that is going. And that is so crucial.
God is very loving.
Yeah.
And there will be people that will say, she's wrong. She should just be talking to Christ or talking to God. Well, as I told my sister one time when I had a book, I'm like, do you read Hindu? Mm-hmm. Do you understand? Have you read their book? Do you know that I've studied religion? I've studied religion all my life. Mm-hmm. And we have many more similarities than we do differences.
And I think that, and I think that that's the piece that so often gets overlooked. There is so much more that connects us than separates us. And that brings us to the next point here, Tamara, because, a notion that I love that you brought up, and it really is something that I wish we could think about more. You brought up previously about how we should be getting out of our own way to assist others. Can we just address that quickly? in terms of what our world would look like if more people operated from that perspective. More people actually looked to their neighbors and, like the words of the Bible, loved thy neighbor's eye.
It would be completely different. I always say grief is one of the most selfish things you can go through, because you only feel your own grief. And you stop. You don't look at around you. I came from a family that lost a lot of family. And the adults, which I'm now an adult, but in my family, we still call them the adults. They had a tendency to forget that we hurt as children when we were children. And you forget that your brother may be missing his wife, or that your cousin is missing even their puppy dog. You have a tendency to forget that other people grieve. So you have to get out of your own way and take a look at their grief. And I remember my niece saying, well, I have no compassion for my mother. And I'm like, she lost 2 babies and a husband before she was 25. Oof. Then my relative lost her daughter, and she looked at it differently. And oh, by the way, that was my sister's granddaughter. So I look at grief, I look at getting out of your own way, because people are hurting. They're in pain. And you just need to stop and say, wait a minute, I'm not the only one yelling out here.
People, I'm telling you, if you take nothing else from today's interview, take that. Pay it forward. Look out for one another. Even something as small as holding the door opened for someone could be the precipice. That could be what sparks a chain reaction, and then that individual may pay it forward to the next. There's ripple effects in all of our actions, and we've gotten so divided, and it's time to rethink some things. It's time to unite again, because listen, we may live in the United States of America, but at this moment in time, we are anything but united. This discussion, as layered as it's been, is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more underneath the surface of that water. You got to pick up your copies today, man. This book is something special, and you got Tamara Michelle Dobbs to thank for all of it. Prayer when you don't have the words, I walked with Jesus, is magnificent. And you got to head on over to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, TamaraDobbsLife.com to gather copies. Holidays are right around the corner. This is a gift that you want to add to someone else's shelf so that they can get involved as well. Tamara, the first discussion was amazing. I had no doubt that this one was going to be an incredible discussion once again, but there is something about being in it and experiencing it fully. This was better than I could have anticipated. Thank you for your wonderful words of wisdom. Thank you for this amazing book. And most importantly, thank you for being a guest here with us through People of Distinction to discuss it.
I am honored. Thank you.